Hello and welcome to Podsongs, where we interview inspirational people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. Today, our host and musician is Valerie June, and her guest is the meditation teacher, Jon Kabat-Zinn. Hello, Valerie.
Hello, how are you, Jack?
Very good, Valerie. It's lovely to have you on the show. It's such a this I've been so looking forward to this episode because you're so many people wrapped up into one. You're exactly the kind of person we want to get on Pod Songs, the kind of thinking man's musician.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no pressure.
Oh, first. Oh my god.
No, because you've been involved in so. I mean, you're not just a singer-songwriter. You're also a poet, illustrator, actor, activist. uh, Certified yoga and mindfulness meditation instructor, among many other things. It's hard to keep track of how many different things you do, even for you.
Well, when I was thinking about the things that I do, I was actually in one of John's meditations, online meditations, and this popped up because things pop up when you go into your meditation. And I thought about all the things that I do and about how he talked about the practice doesn't end when you're done sitting in
Mm,
your meditation. The practice is in the world. And I always think that too about mindfulness. And I think like all the things that I do, I think of them as one thing. That's
mm,
just my life. That's just like what I do. It's what I love. Waking up and being like, oh, here's a poem. Oh, there's a song. Oh, let me water the plants. Oh, now I need to write a book.
yeah,
It just-
yeah,
that's what I want to do. And it's following the heart. And I think I'm not the only one on the planet who does 5 billion things and enjoys them. You don't have to be a master of it. You just have to let it be something you love.
yeah. Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, sounds like one of your meditations. Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's beautiful because maybe that's also the secret to a great artist is that they channel the universe or they channel their higher selves. They let it flow, and you can't be limited by this doesn't fit into a 3-minute song, does it? You just have to flow as it flows, as you say.
It's true. It's hard sometimes. Like I was writing a song this week and I got so many verses to the song. And I was like, this is just going on forever. But which ones are the ones that are like really standing out and the ones that like really want to make it onto the recording? Because if I record all of these, it's gonna be like, what's that Bob Dylan song? It's a really long one. I can't remember.
Well, there are many of them.
It's somebody I know. And it's not great. But I just ask myself like, which ones are really singing out? Which verses are really like, if they're any
Mm,
easier than the exacto here, once I start, first I just get it all. And then
mm,
I go back and I'm like, okay, are you necessary or did I just say that already earlier?
yeah. Well, maybe you can also use it for poetry. Maybe nothing's wasted. The clay falls back on the floor and you pick it up and make another pot.
No, I like the way you said that. Okay. And you just opened up a whole new portal.
No, well, I was really, listening to so much I wanted to ask you about, especially that TED talk you did was very powerful. I really, you're talking about vicious joy and, talking about, uh, um, a joyful revolution. And that really hit me about breathing as well. And George Floyd and Eric Garner and COVID ventilators and how breathing is more prevalent now than ever. And we just don't take the time to breathe.
And just noticing our breath or allowing ourselves to just be in the magical moment of a breath because sometimes like as I'm breathing, I got this study from a woman named Sister Peace. She was doing a mindfulness meditation and she said, when you breathe in, you're going home. And when you breathe out, you're going home.
Mm,
And what I noticed in the space between the breaths is like almost like a blinking or a darkness, like where it's like blink and blank. And, it's only a half a second, but what it seems to happen to me is that I reconnect with my spirit, my spirit being like this inner like being. In each second that I breathe, I'm able to reconnect with it, reconnect with it, reconnect with it. But if I'm not aware of my breath, then I don't see that connection. It's just something that happens. But when you see it, then it actually opens up a whole nother space of being able to create with it, because you touch base with it. It's kind of like realizing that, oh, I plugged that item up already. Now I can record the song. I plugged it up. Now I can capture the music,
Mm,
if
mm,
you're recording or something versus, oh man, why isn't this microphone working? It's because I forgot to plug it up. So just realizing that, oh yeah, there's a connection there all the time. And sometimes like I think about Ocean Vu Vong, I think that's how you say his name. He's a Vietnamese poet.
yeah, we had him
And
on the show.
yeah, oh yeah. When he talks about doing his death meditation, and I thought about the death meditation and breathing, when I'm breathing and I'm returning home in each breath, that, in my mind, that home space is like what death, what the space between lives would be like.
Mm.
And so it's just a half a second of that every single time that you breathe, times however many years. If you're my grandmother, 96, because that's how long she lived. And I like that idea of like returning home in that moment. And we know that everything is living and dying all at once. You can see that with flowering plants or anything. So I don't know why it wouldn't be true that you could live in a breath and die in a breath and live in a breath and die in a breath. And that it doesn't have to be like something that's necessarily like, I'm going to get sad about this, even though sometimes I do. Like, I
Mm.
love quiet meditations. Where it's just like, look, I'm gonna need to cry right now. I'm gonna need to on the floor. Yeah. They come, they happen.
Yeah. So what we're hearing now, and also with the TED Talk, it's obviously we're seeing the years of work, years of reading, years of thinking, even though we shouldn't have been thinking for that long. So what got you started down meditation, mindfulness? How did it all kick off for you?
Really, it's an odd way. It can be said two ways. One, growing up and living in nature. My home in Tennessee is surrounded by like ponds and muddy water, like muddy waters, the singer, like
Yep.
that. Very slow moving. It's snakes and lizards and all these things getting in the house sometimes. You feel like, get out of here. Um, Beautiful birds and moon study and bats because you can see it so clearly. And then as a kid, just spending time like connecting with nature because that was my friend. I have brothers and sisters, but my parents didn't really allow us to socialize too much. So I made friends with nature. And so that was my connection to being able to use nature as like as a beautiful way of connecting with the spirit world. But the other side to it is when I moved to Memphis, I started cleaning houses. And it's a very odd way to come into meditation. But the woman who hired all these independent contractors to clean houses, mostly artists, she said to us, when you clean, you're not just cleaning. You are a domestic artist and you should make your art your meditation. And so as I was dusting a person's house, I would be like Karate Kid, breathing in, breathing out, and just bring my awareness to my breath. And so that was mindfulness in motion for me, and vacuuming the floor, and sweeping, and washing dishes. and just being able to connect with the spirit in all of the ways that I moved around a person's sacred space. And so I did that times 7 years, times about 6 to 7 days a week, times 7 hours. And I just would find that I began to go to this world. And as John would describe it, it's kind of like a net, and it's like a net of awareness. And it's there and it's always existing and it doesn't really have like a time or a space or whatever, but it's always there. And so I would go there, but I would be in motion because everyone doesn't, it's a luxury to sit. It's a luxury to take a moment to just sit in your day. And I was very poor at that time. And I couldn't, just sit for hours and do a meditation. My reality was that I had bills to pay and I had a lot of pressure, a lot of debt, and I needed to spend as many of my waking hours trying to get out of it as possible. And it took me years to get out of it. But so what I did was every once in a while I'd do sitting meditation where I would light a flame and I would just focus on the flame of a candle and start my day with that. It'd be like 6 o'clock in the morning, dark. And then I would carry that as I went to people's houses. But other times, if I was too tired to wake up and do the sitting, then I would just get in the car, do it as I'm driving to the house, get in the house, do it as I'm doing the activities that I'm telling you. And then when I ended up stopping that job, I started playing music for a living. And in doing that, I would just bring it into where I was. I'm on planes for hours. And I'd be like, well, I'm boarding this plane to Italy. I'm going to be on here for 7 hours, 10 hours. Let me just do my practice. And I would do my practice for that time. And just like just creating space wherever I am in the day. And people ask me, like, do you wake up and just start meditating? And that's a funny thing to me. Because, yeah, sometimes, but sometimes I just like go, wake up, start the day, and I do it when when the time comes.
Mm.
The time always comes. So I've never had a problem with the time coming, but I don't like rules like that. I like to just say, this space feels right for this particular activity. I'm gonna dance right now, or I'm gonna do yoga right now, or I'm gonna write a song and be musical or whatever.
Mm.
Feel what comes up.
Yeah. Wow, you make me feel a lot better about cleaning now. Almost makes me want to get out of cloth and go once around the house just to get in to walk on this, have this amazing feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta keep that house clean, but
Yeah.
I think about it and I think about like my ancestors and what was their Zen practice because they worked in the field. They were slaves. They were enslaved and they were on other people's time. So
Mm.
for them to sit and carve out time to make a meditation, they had to learn how to meditate while they were speaking God, you know. And I hate to say it like that with a little laugh, but I laugh because now I feel so free because of where my people come from. I feel such freedom and I feel such gratitude. And I feel I've earned the right to laugh because, you know, we as humanity, we are in a place of great obstacle, just so much growth. And so I know we can move forward. And I feel
Mm.
excited about where we can go.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you're really in service to other people, which really something why I started this podcast. But you really should have your own podcast now because you're in touch with so many people who are giving of their time, and you could really write songs about other people all the time because you must be inspired by all the people that you see in their in advocacy work, and so many stories that need to be told. Man.
Yeah, maybe. I never really thought about a podcast, but
Yeah,
I like
you've done
listening.
everything else.
So that can be cool.
It's easy. Yeah, you just need a mic and interesting people to speak to, and you've got no shortage of you've got one. So yeah, you sure you'd make an amazing podcast.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add it to the list of fun stuff to do.
Yeah. I also have a podcast about psychic development and spirituality, and your most famous song is "Astral Plane." I wanted to ask you if you've had any are you out of body experiences. Are you able to project or anything like that?
I have had limited astral experiences, and you know, they usually have not been like, y- to me, they haven't been very much. It's been like because I was sick, and I was so sick that I started to enter other realms, like leaving my body.
Hmm.
I've had it that way, but I also had it sometimes just in regular life, you know? And this is my favorite way to have it. Like, if you go somewhere like Muir Woods, which is this place in California, San Francisco area, and you walk into the woods and you're around the trees, you can start to see the life around the tree
Okay. Yeah.
and the life around other bodies that are walking through there. And to me, that's the astral world. Like sometimes they show a drawing of like the physical world and the different planes and layers of spirit. And the astral spirit is like right outside of our physical. And so you can see it sometimes. You can see it in your body right here, right now. You don't have to wait for someone to die to connect with their astral spirit. It's almost like the astral is an aura of sorts.
Mm.
It's a really colorful space. It's really sparkly and it's very, very iridescent and colorful. And I like this space. And it's around pretty much everything. Everything's alive, even things that are like a table or a chair. All things are living. So when that becomes like something that just really stands out, it's not all the time. Maybe I could practice to be there all the time, but I don't have it all the time. It'd be cool to have it all the time.
Wonderful. This is going to be a really trippy conversation. No, John's going to be here in a moment, so we should probably introduce him. Why did you pick John to talk to?
Well, um, last I study his work and love it. And there was a gentleman last year whose name was Anthony Ardrove, and he does amazing talks and things. And so I I was talking to him about Howard Zinn and the people's history, and I said it would be so cool to know if he was related to Jon Kabat-Zinn. And he said, actually, it's by marriage. And he said, and I know him, so I could introduce you to him. And I was like, oh, I'm so nervous. So I just said, let me not get into that one because I'm too nervous. Sometimes when you meet people that you love and admire, it's scary. So I just said, I know Anthony can introduce me, but I'm really, really just scared. So I waited, and then you were doing Podsongs, and you mentioned people that who would you like to talk to? It's when I was like, I should just do it. Like, oh, John, but you were able to bring it together for me. Thank you for that. And I feel like I'm less nervous because you're here. So thank you.
Chaperone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like meeting Stevie Nicks or something.
Yeah. People, many of your fans listening to this, they might find it strange that you, who have done so much and have met so many people and you perform on stage to thousands of people, would be nervous. But meeting the great ones can give you the willies.
Yes, most definitely. I still get the willies when I'm about to go on stage. So I'm one of those people. I get them. It doesn't matter.
I know you wanted to speak to Toni Morrison would have been a nice, guest, but unfortunately, she's passed on, so that's another reason to learn astral projection is because then you could go and you could chat to her.
Yeah, that's true. Toni Morrison, Bill Hooks, Octavia Butler. I got a long list of astral
Yeah,
communications
yeah.
that
Astral
are
podcast would
out.
be now that would I would listen to that show.
Yeah. Oh my God. I wish I could. I really wish I could.
Well, it's a matter of time, yeah. Mhm.
Um, we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah. When I was listening to all your beautiful covers as well, you're the kind of singer, sorry, that they could read a shopping list and it would sound wonderful.
You know what? You're giving me so many ideas on this. I might have to do it and see. Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of an Erica Badu song where she talks about the collard greens and no, is that Jill Scott? I think it's Jill Scott. And she goes down the thing that do you like it? And I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
I need a whole grocery like that. Mine would be more like blueberries, salmon, kale. Definitely greens are all there.
Mm,
Lots of greens.
yeah.
I went looking for some dandelion greens today. I'll eat a whole thing of dandelion greens and almonds for breakfast with avocados and all kinds of good fat with the dandelion.
Yeah, there you go.
So good.
Yeah. So
I write
so
I write the song extra playing while I was cooking. So a lot of the songs that I write, I cook and then I write them. I wrote a song this week, like the seed of the song came months ago. I can't remember what I was doing when it came. And then it came up again. And so I was in a place where I could sit. So I sat down and just wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then nothing else came. So I was like, well, I guess I'll go eat. And I started cooking and the rest came. And I was like, well, where's the paper? Cooking and writing, and singing all of that together.
no, your songs have that they're so, there's such a hook inside them, such a, they're not you can sit down, you can go to when you're in Nashville, you can go have a session, can't you, with co-writers and say, "Okay, we'll write a song from 2 till 6 today. We've booked the studio and we'll do a song." But, the good ones they come when they wanna come, you can tell the difference between when you're forced out a verse and a chorus, but when you have a you know, you have the kind of songs that you can read a book in the meter of the song or in the rhythm of the song with the melody, and that's something that's really just comes down, as DNA.
Yeah, I just kind of let it come and try not to worry about it. Is it gonna finish itself? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. And my job is just to hear it and get as much of it as I can.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I don't know what will happen if I guess, yeah, I kind of do know what would happen. For some of them that I'm not able to finish, I'll find a co-writer and they'll have the other part. But other people hear that same tone of what that song is. So the song will come out one way or the other, whether I
Mhm.
or someone else wants to write it, if it wants to be written.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it doesn't have to be through me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not the only one out here getting songs like I get them. Other people do too. So
Yeah, it's the kundalini, it's the higher self, it's coming down and when it's easier to finish a song once somebody started as well, you've got the kernel there, the seed, so, yeah,
that's true.
yeah. So there's gonna be a song after this episode, which I'm really excited for. Yeah, I mean, it can take however long it needs to take. I'm waiting on some songs for 2 years, but, it's easier if we, if if you make some time for it after this conversation while you're still in the moment. You're still feeling John's vibes to get it down and yeah, at least get the kernel of something then would be my one tip.
Okay. So just kind of like
Cook
go
something.
day and see what happens.
Yeah, good.
You?
Do a lot of cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Because I need to. Ready. I'm ready to eat.
Because I'm so up after a podcast. I mean, I sweat during the interviews as well. I perspire with excitement, and you're because that's the energy's there. We're all connecting, so you have to put that to use before you have a shower. I think after, because it's hard to get sweaty again listening back to it.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
true. There's something about the moment and the score. We'll see what happens.
Okay, well here he is, the man himself.
And will you ask us the question?
No, you. Hello, John.
Well, hello there.
Ah,
Well,
how are you today?
I have a little bit of runny nose, but aside from that, I'm okay.
Okay.
So if I'm clearing my throat, that's the sinus action. But it's so nice to meet you. I mean,
Nice
what
to
an honor to meet you.
meet you. An honor. Just such an honor.
Mm.
Thanks for making time.
Yeah, well, my absolute pleasure. I mean, it feels like adventuring in a universe I don't know anything about. So I was very, kind of intrigued by just the idea of this. And you'll have to explain it to me because I don't actually understand it all that much. But apparently, this is a thing for some musicians and singers to speak with various kinds of teachers. And then, am I right in understanding that then out of that emerges something wonderful and creative potentially that might be useful to other people or pleasing?
Yes. Perhaps a song. That's what we hope to write. Just based off chatting.
Well, I love that. Where are you at the moment on this planet?
Right now I'm in New York. Where
You're
are
in
you?
New York. Okay. I'm in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jack, where are you?
I'm in the south of Italy.
South of Italy. Not too shabby a place to be.
No.
Where in the south of Italy?
Opposite the Amalfi Coast, underneath Salerno, Santa Maria di Castellabate.
Wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
Just hearing the words is like
It
music.
does sound good. Yeah, I picked a place with a good name.
Very good. Wow. So I'm all yours. Ordinarily when I'm online doing stuff, I sort of like take the lead, but I feel like, no, I just need to listen and respond to whatever I can, sort of engage with you.
Wonderful. Well, the best episodes are when the subject is the star. I found in my experience now of doing quite a few episodes. So I think that because it's something you both know a lot about, the mind or mindfulness or meditation or this or however we define it together. So a conversation based around that would be quite free flowing and not a simple Q&A, but just a flowing conversation would be lovely to hear. You two great thinkers on this subject in exploring the topic.
And then the idea is that out of that, it will marinate and percolate and you might come up with a song. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah. There you go. You got it.
I mean, how cool is that? And I have to confess, Valerie, I just have to confess that I had never heard of you. When people say that to me, I love it. I thought, oh, I'm so happy that you haven't heard of me. But I had actually never heard of you, even though I am like a big fan of, certain streams of music over the years. And when I started listening to your music, I just like, holy cow, this is absolutely wonderful. I just fell in love with it. So, I just wanted to say that it really is, and, sort of, I'm a little starstruck myself.
Thank you. I'm greatly starstruck. I'm feeling Jack before you join. Um, Anthony Argrove does different talks with actors and musicians where we will read like excerpts from things that are happening in the world. And we did one at Town Hall, I believe it was recently, last year about this.
Mhm.
And a lot of times the books of Howard Zinn will be there and they always give you a stack of books.
Oh,
And
nice.
talking, and he was like, "Oh, I was learning that you're interested in mindfulness meditation." He was like, "Have you ever heard of Jon Kabat-Zinn?" And I was like, yeah." It makes sense. Well, if you ever want to meet him, let me know because, I know how to get in touch with him." And I was like, "Oh my God, that would be so great." But then I was so nervous to meet you because I'm always nervous to meet people that I respect and admire. And so I just said, "Oh, I'll wait." And when Jack said, "Well, who would you like to speak with for this Podsongs to be inspired to write a song?" And I said, "Well, could I speak with John?" And he reached out. So it
Oh,
worked.
wow. Well, I've given it a little thought in the sense that, having listened to some of your music and loving, I think, some of the people that you loved when you were younger, like Mississippi John Hurt, for instance, and, Elizabeth Cotton, and, there's various strains in the music world, which I am not big into, but, that I grew up in the, 50s down home, like the origins of rock and roll. So, I grew up with the beginnings of rock and roll and never stopped listening to it. And now I have all these CDs from late 50s, early 60s, mid 60s rock and roll, like the classics collections. And my grandkids play them all the time. We're just dancing around the kitchen uh, down home, early 60s, late 50s rock and roll. And it's, the energy of it is just phenomenal, just phenomenal.
It really is. It really is. I love that John Hurt and Elizabeth Cotton, and I try to keep their spirit alive in the work that I do because they're just to me masters of roots blues and folk music, and
Mhm.
I just love that you listen to them as well because sometimes you have to
And
remind people that they
I
exist.
mean, don't get me started, because like, it's so easy for somebody my age to sort of live in the past and, sort of Otis Redding and Aretha Franklin. And and it was a world. It wasn't just music. Music defined the 60s and the early 70s. And, when you're a certain age in that domain, like when you're in your 20s and 30s, it's like your universe in a certain way, whether you recognize it or not, whether you got other jobs going or relationships and stuff like this. That's the kind of background echo of the universe, so to speak, the cosmic background radiation. And every generation has different music. So, like, even nowadays, I think the kids 3 years apart are listening to totally different music.
That's true. They are.
So that's what they tell me. It means that, like, if you care about life and the world, music is kind of like medicine in a certain way, just the way, mindfulness is a certain kind of meditation, is a certain kind of medicine. And of course, the two words are the same, medicine and meditation. So anyway, tell me how you want to proceed, and I'll just sit back and sort of tune in as I can.
To me, this is the perfect way to proceed because as Jack said, just our natural conversation. But when I think about the medicine of music and I think about the people we spoke about who are my elders, Mississippi John Hurt from the Delta and Elizabeth Cotton from North Carolina, I think about all that wisdom of African American culture and early then masters of blues and
Yes.
all the richness that's there. Because I was telling Jack, he was asking me how I got into practicing mindfulness meditation. I said, well, it's actually a weird way. I was a cleaning lady and I would practice as I was dusting,
Mhm.
almost like Karate Kid style.
Did you just make that up on your own? Did you just come to it, or did you read that that was a good thing to do?
No, there was a lady who, and she owned this company, and she said, when you go to clean a house, you aren't just cleaning the house; you're a domestic artist. You must be in a meditation when you're doing your art. And so I just started to say, well, sometimes I do sitting meditation with the candle, and I'll just focus on the flame with follow my breath. But I'm going to bring my meditation into my work because
Right.
I was very poor. I didn't have time to do hours and hours of sitting meditation, but I was on my feet 7 hours a day at least cleaning. And I was like, this is very quiet time. I'm alone in someone's sacred space. Why can't I bring my meditation into this space? And so I started to do that. But when Jack was asking me, well, where do you think that came from? And I just said, well, I'm a Southern woman, and the root of African American history is that my ancestors will work in the fields. They
Yeah.
were on someone else's time. For them to do a sitting meditation, they didn't have their own time.
Right. Right.
So I said, I think we had to learn how to do it as we worked. And songs came.
Same with song. I mean, people were singing while they worked in chains.
Exactly, exactly. And so there's, to me, like a great connection between, at least in the culture of like, if not in a book anywhere that I know of, but of like art of meditation being a part of the movement and a part of the movement of the day. And, for it to be a luxury to sit too. I
Yeah.
think, what
Well, I wrote a book 30 years ago called Wherever You Go, There You Are, which was meant to be a kind of like a book that anybody could pick up about meditation, and the subtitles meditation or mindfulness in everyday life. So it's like there's a chapter in there called Cleaning the Stove While Listening to Bobby McFerrin. And I tried to write what I was actually doing moment by moment, cleaning the stove with Bobby McFerrin, doing what Bobby McFerrin was doing on the speakers. And it was like a really fun playfulness just on its own to kind of describe like, oh no, meditation's not just sitting on your bum for hours and hours at a time. I mean, that's really important, but you do have to have like quite a privileged life to be able to arrange to do something like that. Uh, and not to say that it can't be done, it's not valuable, even if you don't have privilege, but it's not easy to arrange long meditation retreats. And then they're not the answer to all life's problems either. So to make the real meditation practice life itself in the only moment you ever have, then you're going to be cleaning the house for 7 hours as part of your work, but they were paying you in a certain way to grow something much bigger than a clean house for them.
I like to think of it that way too, that, I was working in the space of making, of lifting the house up. And
Yeah.
hey, that people have
Yeah.
sacred spaces. Why can't a cleaning lady make that sacred space better and better?
I
Um,
wonder how many people think along those lines, though.
I don't know.
I don't think it's all that many. So, again, I bow to you for articulating that because, maybe that'll become a thing, that like mindful house cleaning. Um, I don't know.
We never know. We never know. I loved in your masterclass, several of the meditations I did. One of my favorite things you said was that the meditation doesn't stop. Mindfulness doesn't stop just because the sitting practice is over. It's life. It's
Yeah.
in the world. And I love that because I love doing different types of meditation. Like last week, I was in Vermont and I did a snow side meditation on the side of a snowy mountain, or
Mm.
sometimes just a rain meditation, or listening to the rain, or like silence, just understanding like the music of it. And I love that you said that. And it's so affirming to have someone who's been practicing for so many years tell you, hey, it is life. It's still.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what it
And
is.
and there's no one right way to do it too. So this is another very liberative thing to keep in mind, because that you'll always find people out there that tell you that meditation is this or it's limited to that, and that you have to do it right or you'll go off on some wrong path or so forth. And that may be true in particular instances for real specifics, but for the most part, the genius of meditation is that there's many different ways to meditate as there are stars in the sky. That the real thing is connecting with who you are. And that's got a lot of mystery to it. So it, to me, I see it as a love affair, and really a love affair with the beauty of the present moment and just having a life that's so miraculous. And it's like time limited too. So your moments really do count, because, they're not forever. And so to actually bring that kind of an orientation to the pain and the suffering, the difficult times, when your mind is not trusting or it's telling you stuff that's really, dangerous or depressing, or about yourself and how inadequate you are and so forth. Oh, excuse me. And the real meditation practice is realizing none of that's the truth. If we just learned this in like second grade, this would be like the most important thing you could learn in second grade, is that your thoughts are not the truth. And even though you believe them, and other people, if they're teasing you or, don't like you, they'll tell you all sorts of things. But you have the freedom to actually see them as like events unfolding in experience, and realize that they come and they go, and there's no essential uh, element of truth to them as regards to you. They're just ideas and opinions. And even your own things that you love and hold true, 5 years later, you may not love and hold true all those things. You may have a whole bunch of other things that you want to go to the mat and fight over and so forth. They could be very different from the things of 5 years before or 10 years before. So in a sense, it's really a love affair to trust that the present moment has an infinite dimensionality to it. And I'm guessing, just as with songwriting or performing, that, no two performance is the same, even if the words are the same in the song. And even when you play the notes, every time it's this moment, this note, right? I mean, it has to have its own unique signature in a certain way to be authentic. And that creates resonances in the other. So that when you are playing a song and someone's not just hearing it, but, not just listening to it, but hearing it, the hearing is like being moved. You're moved, you're being carried along, or whatever it is. And in the process of that, you're offering a new degree of freedom for that moment, very sort of short, but a new degree of freedom in that moment to sort of be okay feeling exactly as you feel. That's a huge gift. It's a huge gift. If you can carry that through a whole song, I mean, if people play the song 1,000,000 times because they really want to have that feeling, and then they'll project it onto you, or, sort of Taylor Swift or whoever it is, Beyonce, that it's all about them. But the singers, I think, really know, tell me if I'm wrong, that the songs may come out of you, but the reason they resonate is because there's a certain way in which we, as Thich Nhat Hanh like to say, we enter R. So if it's coming out of me, then there's something in me that's a lot like what's going on in you, even the dark, unpleasant stuff or the challenging stuff. And when I can hold that in a certain way that has dignity and resolve and a certain kind of tensile flexibility, but real strength. That's an infectious disease, only a really positive one. I mean, it's like you're infecting people with a certain kind of meme that I'm okay in this moment. And they'll think I'm okay in this moment because I'm listening to Valerie June and to this song and so forth. But the real truth is that they're okay in this moment, period. And the song is recognizing something that's already in them and reminding them of that, and maybe drawing it out in such a way that it changes their life in some small way. And when you have that intentionality as a singer, or you understand something about the dynamics of like the industry and what it's really about, aside from business of it. I mean, look at the influence that you are all having on new generations, and they need it because what the world we're moving into is a lot more terrifying than the world that we're moving out of. I mean, really insane with AI and, and just all insane violence and injustice and baked in, sort of problems in the world, all of which everybody knows are wrong. And it's like, well, actually, I can find a way to be in wise relationship to all this stuff and then engage in healing, like heal not just myself. That's important. But if I'm a center of well-being, hey, everybody I am in contact with is in some sense in resonance, in attunement, just as with a song. They are tuning into your wavelength in a certain way. They may not understand it. They may not feel it, in a way they could intellectualize it, but they're like feeling better, more possibility, more love. And if you can convey to them that that's a meditation practice, that doesn't end when the song ends or when you get tired of the album, but that life is the album and it's free. Even I'm just riffing off, like I've never even had any of these thoughts, but picking up that metaphor, it's like that gives you a lot of degrees of freedom for charting your own path or finding your own songs or listening to the song of your own instincts or heart or what's trustworthy in you. And everybody's going to hear it differently. So that's a lot of positivity that you're spreading out there. It's like, I sometimes think of mindfulness as a superpower. Just the way I was inspired to use that term because I don't like hype, but the way Greta Thunberg uses that term, and she has, all these challenges with being on the autism spectrum and so forth. But she's obviously, if you've ever listened to her talk to the UN or anything like that, 15 years old, she's talking from a place of clarity, embodied clarity that's most people never ever reach in their lives. And it's like, it's almost like you watch her, there's nobody there because she's not caught in the personal pronouns of my story and how great I am talking to the UN or anything like that, or leading a mass movement of young people. She's just speaking her truth. And that's why it resonates so much. So that's a superpower. Well, mindfulness, I've sort of been inspired by her to say, look, mindfulness is a superpower too. And it's one that you don't have to acquire. You're born with it. What you need to develop is access to it, because most of the time we're carried away by our likes and dislikes and our, emotional reactivity and so forth. And our stories of me that are too small and not big enough and very sometimes dark, but really not true. But when you believe the story of me, then you're stuck in the story of me. But when you see that, but your awareness, which is what mindfulness really is, when your awareness of the story of me is not in the story of me, then you can begin to wonder, well, rather than staying in the story, maybe I could just stay in the awareness. I could take up residency in that. That'd be my apartment or my dwelling. I'll just dwell in awareness. Whether I'm in Italy or whether I'm in New York City or whether I'm, anywhere. This will be my like home base, the body in the present moment with exactly what's going on now, and realize that the awareness can hold the good, the bad, and the ugly, and still have degrees of freedom for navigating that so that you don't really make a mess of things, which of course, when you don't know that, you can fall into a lot of dark spaces, being influenced by, various kinds of toxicities in the culture or people or, who don't have your best interests at heart or anything like that. But when you really grok the deep beauty, I mean, the Buddhists would say Buddha nature of yours, who you are, that cannot be tainted or contaminated, then meditation becomes just only remembering that, touching base with it. Yeah, if you want to get your ass on the cushion for an hour, great. That's you have to learn how to do that so that you don't spend the hour just driving yourself crazy or angry that your knees are hurting. But it's not like that's a problem that you're driving yourself crazy or that your knees are hurting. It's just that when you hold that in awareness, all of a sudden, none of that's a problem either. And then it's a way of like just affirming that this is it, man. This is it. Whatever this is it. Now, how am I going to be in wise relationship to it? And with open-hearted spaciousness, which is what awareness really is. And we're born with it, so we don't have to make it happen. But learning how to live inside it, then it's like you have a new degree of freedom in your life or a backup, superpower that you can call on day or night under the most horrifying circumstances and realize, okay, just this. It's workable. You can hold it.
It's true. Look, just I'm thinking about mindfulness and AI and the challenges that we face as humanity, but the potential for things to go to swing and go the opposite direction, a more positive direction, I think it's so there. And I'm excited about it. I'm
Well, I'm
excited.
happy to hear that from you because I tell you, there are days that it can seem very dark and despairing with what's going on. I mean, just take Gaza or something like that. And the kind of the moral injury of having to watch it or not being able to watch it and turn away from it because it's too horrifying, but realize what's going on. There's harm associated with that. There's cost to that kind of impotence or inability to transform the world when you're like really confronted with suffering. But we have to do that. The world is really not just starving, I feel, but dying for that. And you don't just do it by fighting injustice. You do it by being just.
So, like, sometimes when I'm in the space of using mindfulness as a tool
Excuse me.
and calling forth what I'm hoping could happen for humanity in the face of what's happening in Gaza and what people even on my street are suffering,
Yeah.
in the face of so much suffering, it's very much like hard to find the language for a girl to live mindfully and speak mindfully and sing mindfully about the world as a wonderful world, like Louis Armstrong did when he said, "I see trees of green."
I sing that song all the time with my 5-year-old grandchild,
I
Joaquin.
love it. Don't you love it?
And my mother loved Louis Armstrong. I mean, who died at the age of 101. And until she was in her late 90s, I mean, we would dance to Louis Armstrong all the time in her apartment. And that song was like, top of the line.
It is. To
Yeah.
me, it was.
And it's so simple, that song. It's so simple. But if you're missing all of that, and all you're thinking about is Ukraine and Gaza, which are very important to think about, or whatever else about that's injustice going on in this world. But if you are a complete prisoner of that in a certain way, that's a tragedy. And that's something that That's why they speak about mindfulness in the Buddhist tradition. Mindfulness is called a liberative practice. It's liberating. So why do they call it a liberative practice? Because we're basically imprisoned virtually 24/7 by how we see ourselves, how we see the world. And usually it's a very dark picture. For a lot of people, it's a very dark picture. And so just taking your seat and being one individual who at the moment is open-hearted and compassionate and kind, even if you're not doing anything, and caring about the world, that's really important. And you're not an individual because there's gazillions of us out there. And yeah, we do feel powerless often, and there's so little we can do in some regards until we're not. I mean, you mentioned my father-in-law, Howard Zinn. I mean, his his entire life of political activism was around the power of even 2 or 3 people to make a huge difference. When you commit to holding the space for justice in the face of institutionalized injustice, it has a power that, he even wrote a book called The Power Governments Can't Control. And so there's a certain kind of element of activism associated with mindfulness, at least in my mind, and even MBSR, what I started out, my aim when I was young was to bring mindfulness into the mainstream of the world, so that I thought it'd be a better world if everybody meditated. Of course, probably I had the secret thought that it'd be better if everybody meditated the way I think everybody should meditate. Because of my way is, of course, best way and clearest. And my teachers are the best teachers and all that. But because I'm being playful. But the fact is that if everybody just learned on the whole planet to just drop in and not take what's going through your mind so seriously and so personally, then if you were Russian, you would realize, like, we don't have any problem with the Ukrainians. They're the same with us. And the same, I mean, is very complicated, but the same for the Middle East. And there's all sorts of political machinations that have been going on forever on that score. And so nobody's hands are clean, but the Palestinians have been just getting the shaft for forever. I mean, at least, at the beginning of the 20th century, from the beginning of the 20th century, if not centuries before that in the Ottoman Empire and so forth. And now I think it's time for the world to wake up, because if we don't, the scenarios that are likely to happen are really, really scary. And if you have children, or you care grandchildren, or you just care about future generations, then there's a certain responsibility, it feels to me, to like live your life in such a way that you don't just live a satisfying, happy, sort of self-contained, successful in all the conventional ways life, but you leave that kind of a tiny but not insignificant impact on the way the world will unfold in the next moment, namely the future. And that's, I think, our karmic assignment on the planet. And that's why I teach meditation. I try to make that invitation as accessible as I can to everybody. Because we I like to say we need all hands on deck at this particular moment on the planet, because we're screwing it 10 ways to Tuesday.
It's true. I was at an event called Sea Changes Sessions last week, and one
What
of
was
the
it called? Sorry.
Sea Changes, and
CFEA?
SEE to see.
Mhm.
I thought that was a cool name, but there was an indigenous elder there from a Canadian tribe, and he said that he was talking about leaving the planet and humanity, and he said they try to think 7 generations forward
Right.
and how they will leave the planet for those who are coming 7 generations after. And I just was like, yes, in my bones. Like, and I feel that when we do sit and we're with our breath and or if we are just like in the world and connecting with the world through mindful action, that's kind of connecting us with the generations to come. And it's like your mother told you, when you go visit someone's house, you don't leave it a mess. You leave it better than you found it. Don't we want to leave the planet better than we found it? Is what I always think when it comes to my
RESPECT.
right. Aretha, back to
I
the
tell you, yeah, it's so simple, but it's and this is what they say about meditation. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Mm.
Okay, so there's that element of it too, that we are so distracted, even before the digital world hit us, full on. We were like, just regular human beings. It's so easy to be distracted. When we were hunters and gatherers, it wasn't so easy to be distracted. Because if you weren't paying attention, you might wind up being lunch to some tiger or, some, carnivorous animal. So like when we were hunters and gatherers, we were much more mindful. We were much more tuned in. But, so there's a kind of arc in humanity. And I like to think from an evolutionary point of view, humanity hasn't been around all that long in terms of civilization. It's like when you think about it, maybe since 5000 BC or something like that. That's like not that many generations, actually. It's, several hundred generations, maybe 500 generations. But that's not that many generations. I mean, humanity's in its infancy. And what we need, I feel, is to like look in the mirror and see ourselves in our own beauty. I mean, and realize, and then wake up. So that if we have to, we create laws that make it unlawful to harm other people. Okay, so now I know the lawyers will come in and say, well, there's like different kinds of harm, and but to have it like basic thing, you try to do as much harm, as little harm and as much good as you possibly can do in this world. And then you're out of here. And I feel like, I'm just resonating with what you're saying. And I feel like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And we're each, in some sense, trying to do it in a way that resonates authentically with who we are and what our talents are. And I tell you, it is infectious. I mean, I'm sure you feel it in your concerts. The people that love your music, they love you and they love each other. And they're probably not sitting still in chairs while they're listening to you. And so there's all this kind of movement and interaction. And yeah, and then it goes away, because it's just a short thing. But there's certain movements that don't go away. And if we could grow those movements through your work, through songs, through whatever it is, and remind people like, we got to be in it for life, because, it's not just about entertainment. It's about healing and transformation and being the you that the universe needs you to be, or planet Earth needs you to be, and that you already are, if only you could see it. And then if you don't know what that is, that's great, because not knowing is not a problem. See, if I was trained as a scientist, an MIT scientist, so the greatest scientists, and my father was a scientist, so the greatest scientists, they are really intimate with not knowing. Because the problem with knowing a lot is that sometimes what you know gets in the way of just making that next intuitive leap to putting two and two together and coming up with something no one's ever seen. Like, and we were looking at the X-ray structure of DNA, and it looks very periodic and organized and everything. And what is it? And then all of a sudden, a woman saw, oh, it's a double helix. No one had ever seen that before. A woman named Rosalie Franklin at Cambridge University in the UK in the 50s. And then Watson and Crick stole that X-ray data from her, and she died and never won the Nobel Prize. It is now getting recognition 50, 60 years later for something that, like, that even this, one of the greatest biological discoveries of all time was in a certain way a ripple. It wasn't just, benign scientific wonder.
Do you have any, if you could put it into a song, mindfulness, is there a sound or you know, what would be the expression? Like some of my songs come from just bird song, and sometimes I just record bird song. So do you
Mm.
have a favorite sound that tunes you, that starts you in your meditation, or what would it be? Your sound, if you had to choose a sound for a song, along the lines of what we're talking about.
This may sound like a cop out or a sort of hokey, answer, but uh, what comes to mind is the sound of no sound,
Mm.
or which is basically the sound of all sound, or pure hearing. There's a poem that a very famous German poet named Rilke from the early part of the 20th century, died extremely young, I think at 26, just like a incredible poet, wrote that touches me very deeply in that regard. Okay. And it goes like this. Do you mind if I recite it for you?
Love it.
If I can remember. Um, I have so many poems floating around in my head. I sort of catalog them. Um,
I took your class and you had Emily Dickinson,
oh
Ruby,
yeah.
Tierney,
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean the master class?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this one's in there, but it's like, my life is not this steeply sloping hour in which you see me hurrying. Much stands behind me. I stand before it like a tree. I am just one of my many mouths, and at that, the one that would be still the soonest. I am the rest between two notes, which are somehow always in discord because death's note wants to climb over. But in the dark interval, reconciled, they stay here trembling, and the song goes on. Beautiful.
Mm, that was perfect.
So it's like uh, the sound of no sound to me means that. Have you ever read Siddhartha, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha? It's like a little small classic. I haven't read it in decades, but there's a chapter in there called Om, the kind of sound Om that's often chanted in um, yogic meditations. And it's a whole chapter on Om. He's sitting by the river and meditating by the river and listening to the river. And then all of a sudden the river is full of a million voices, just gazillion voices. His entire life is in the river, but with real specificity. So very vivid memories of this, that, and everything. And he sits there next to the river, and then it ends with his saying, and then finally the entire stream of all the sounds and all the voices merge into one sound, the sound of Om. And it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read in my life. And that book is like this an unbelievable classic. It bears rereading every 5 years or something like that. I don't know if it touches women as much as it touches men, but it sure touched me when I was a young man. But that bit about the river So I don't have like anything more specific about that, except to say that one of the ways of practicing formal meditation is because, I wrote a whole book about this called Coming to Our Senses, is like every sense is a gateway into mindfulness or into the heart. So, um, hearing, just hearing. Now, of course, we're never not hearing. We're not like seals. We can't close off our ears. So there's always hearing going on. We can close our eyes and there may not be external seeing going on, but there's always hearing going on. Most of the time, we're not hearing a thing. We're hearing the thoughts in our head. And most of the time, we're imprisoned by the thoughts in our head. I mean, they really are. A lot of them very toxic and very disempowering and shaming, and also not too friendly towards other people. And to be able to just drop into hearing and be the boundless spaciousness of awareness, so that you're not the notes anymore, Rilke's notes, but you're the silence that holds it all. The rest between two notes, he called it. Well, that rest is never not here. Never not here. So that could become your like home, your default mode, your, as the neuroscientists like to call it, where your brain rests in not the story of me, but just wakefulness, wonder, and a deep kind of non-conceptual knowing. So it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with concepts, but this is a kind of knowing that goes beyond this and that, liking and disliking, us and theming, and all of that kind of stuff, to hold that kind of om-like sound of no sound, that when there's so much suffering in the world, could give us the strength to not give up, to actually realize that we're born to be a force of good in the world. It's our nature in a certain way. Kindness is our nature. The Dalai Lama always talks about mothers and their babies and nursing, and like the way, and animals also, the way they take care of the babies, the way they take care of the young. This is like genetically, written into our code. So when we give up, sort of seeing ourselves as special, then you can really, really see yourself as special, because you're unique in the world. There's nobody like you. Even if you're an identical twin, there's still nobody quite like you. And that's true for every single person in the world, including even the ones we don't particularly love. And they're a product of how they were treated very often in the world, in their early life circumstances and so forth. So if we want to stop the epidemic of madness and violence and harm and greed, hatred, and delusion, so to speak, just to name a few that are dominating, corporate life in the world, and, in every industry, and, including music, I'm sure. Okay. So, but that's true everywhere. It's like, we have a lot of power in that regard. And it's this power of recognizing our profound interconnectedness, and that it's fundamentally love. And that when we, sort of live in that way, that becomes like our go-to mode, our default mode, again, as this neuroscientists say, then you've already changed the world, because you're only one cell of the body politic of the universe. But, the world is made up of cells, just the way the body is made up of cells. And if you change one cell, maybe you can change all the others and shift things in a direction. So, I know that could be criticized as pie in the sky or goofy or whatever, but, when the stakes are extremely high for humanity right now, and I do not want to fall into a kind of terminal depression around the future because of how horrible humans are or have been to each other in the past. And certainly with the legacy of slavery and the genocide of the indigenous people, on our continent, there's a certain movement where this is finally coming home to roost, that it's coming to register. As I think about it, a lot like with Israel and Gaza, that, what goes around comes around. If you don't take care of these things early on at the beginning, 100 years later, 400 years later, they're going to come around and hit you in the head from behind, and will require ultimately something that recognizes the extent of the harm, the irreversibility of the harm, that you can't go back and make it different, but to some way or other begin to acknowledge that from here on, we're going to act, not just give lip service, act in a way that's different. And if one person does it, it's great. If 3 people do it, it's great. It's like a conspiracy. And if 1,000 people do it, it's a movement. I'm quoting from one of those people's history kind of, the people speak. They used to get artists together, actors together. My father-in-law, mostly Hollywood actors, and enact all these famous speeches from history that nobody knows about because they were all in the anti-war, sort of anti-slavery, they were all radical, views of history, not the mainstream of history. Sorry again, apologies for the coffee.
That's
So
fair.
that's kind of how I see it. And so it's in a certain way, it's like very alive and very political, and it's not an ideology. It's not one size fits all, or you have to do it my way, or we need heroes, or we need to feature a particular kind of people up front who become big egomaniacs or anything like that. But no, it's going to be a distributive, moving the bell curve of humanity towards sanity. And I think from an evolutionary and historical point of view, if it's only been like 5,000 or 6,000 years of human history, hey, what about the next 10,000 or even the next 100 or 200? We got to be very careful not to destroy ourselves in the next couple of 100 years for the sake of all beings, as they say.
I think for the sake of all, people speak. That's where I met Anthony, who's carried on.
Anthony Arnolf?
Yes,
Yeah,
he carried on the tradition, and he's the one who
absolutely.
originally was like, "I'll introduce you to John."
Oh, I wondered how this came about.
Yeah,
Well, we love Anthony. I mean, my wife, who's the executor of the Howard, her father's estate, he's in contact with Anthony all the time.
that is
Yeah,
so cool. And
he's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
yeah,
I love that connection because, these streams are coming together. I mean, the meditative stream, the science stream, and the stream of, let's call it people's history, global people's history. They're all coming together because the corporate, imperialists have made such a mess of things. And now they've polluted the whole planet. I mean, we don't have a planet B, as they say. So, waking up it's not option. It's not like a nice, like luxury. It's like absolutely essential for us if we love life.
I think we have a chance. I really believe we do, and
Me too.
I just think you talked about those different worlds, but the other worlds, and this, Rick Rubin has a book that came out called The Creative Act. That
I have it
other
right here.
the creative, yeah, this whole art world coming to merge with the mindfulness world and the science world, and all of those worlds together, creating like a power and a light within individuals that reminds us of what you were talking about with one cell. And once we see that, and once we have that straight, just knowing that it's rippling out, that it's growing. And I think art has to be a part of it, you know? And
Totally. Well, my father was a like very heavy duty scientist at Columbia Medical School. And my mother was a painter. So I grew up in this like CP Snow's two worlds, science and art. And my father was like really well known in his field, you know, immunochemistry and molecular immunology. My mother only sold one painting in her entire life and regretted it. She didn't ever want to sell her work, and she was extremely prolific. But she did it for her own satisfaction. And it was amazing to see. So, yeah, I mean, Rick's book, um, when I read it, I said, because I happened to connect with him around that time that book came out. My daughter gave it to me, and then some weird series of circumstances, Anderson Cooper, who is a friend and a student of mine, happened to mention something to Rick about me. And so we got together. I got together with Rick and, had a long conversation with him. I love that guy. He's really, but you see, he's embodying exactly that.
it,
Don't know mind. He sits there lies there on the couch with his eyes closed for hours, and he doesn't know any of the mechanics of the music business. And, it's just pure genius. And then the way he maps it out in the book, it's like really affirming that there is no one right way. And if you're looking for a formula, it's a big problem. Okay. Because what you really need to be looking at is who's looking in the first place and who wants to give birth to what, and then trust that. So, yeah, I mean, I've never found anything more creative than just being still and befriending my own mind for longer than it feels comfortable to sit. That's where the formal sitting meditation is really powerful on long retreats, or just sitting for, a few days in your house, just sitting and walking and not doing anything to distract yourself. Um, you take up residency and awareness in a way that's imagination and creativity are like, that's like part of being human. But if you're not paying attention, it just goes by the boards. But if you're really deeply listening, then, profound insights come. I'm sure that sounds or songs come to you, threads of, sort of lyrics that you could maybe pursue and change over time. But you have to be into the listening and not being attached to the outcome. Because as soon as you're attached to the outcome, then you really want to be successful. And that energy kills the creativity.
true.
And he's very clear about that in the book. He's very clear about the need for you to trust yourself. Have you read the book, Jack? Have you wrote the book?
No, I haven't, but I still think I might.
Yeah, it's really fabulous. I have it right here.
I also love that your mom was the painter and how she did not want to sell that one. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
that's
she
the
had her first showing. She lived in an assisted living community after my father died for about 15 years. And she had her first exhibit when she was 101 years old.
wow.
And she showed 5 or 6 paintings. And the feedback that she got from people was just wonderful. She just loved that. Because most of the time she never got any positivity for her work because she never put it out in the world in a way that people would know it was happening. But as a kid, I was watching this and seeing my scientific father, my artist mother, and them not, to a certain degree, being able to understand each other's worlds. And part of the reason I got into meditation, it took me like 50 or 60 years to realize this, but was because when I was 4 and 5, living in their apartment in New York City, I saw that they didn't know each other's worlds in a certain way, but I saw both their worlds. And as a 4-year-old, and I was asking, I was intuiting because I wasn't thinking this, but I realized this much later that I was like, well, if there are different ways of seeing the world, then there has to be a way of seeing them as linked, the art world and the science world and every other kind of world. And so that was kind of sort of just churning around in me when I was like a teenager and a college student and so forth. And then when I was at MIT, I happened to go to a talk the first year I was there by an American Zen master. Almost nobody at MIT went to that talk. There were maybe like 4 people in the audience. And then the person who invited the speaker and then the speaker, who happened to be Philip Kapleau, who had just written this book called The 3 Pillars of Zen. And that talk, I was 21 years old, that talk took the top off my head. And I realized right in that moment, it's mindfulness that will hold those 2 worlds. That awareness can hold it all, the world of science, the world of art, the world of music, the world of poetry, the world of everything. Mindfulness is that, I don't want to say powerful, but that fundamental, that it can actually hold it all in a way that maybe you could navigate and create even new possibilities. And as I said, it took me a very long time to realize that. And I also realized that's just maybe a story I tell myself, and it's probably not true, but it's a nice story.
I like this story. Well, I've learned so much from you, and I feel so grateful, and I'm inspired. I got a lot of different ideas for what this song is going to
Well,
be.
this is very cool. And if you ever want to, sort of connect with me about anything going forward, we can have another one. I'm like, I'd love to do that, just from the point of view of just being playful, playing around and seeing what emerges. But if not, I mean, super. If you send me a good mailing address, I'd be happy to send you a copy of Wherever You Go, There You Are, that just came out in its 30th anniversary edition. Send both of you, if you send me your addresses, if you care to, I'm happy to put
Real
them in.
cool. And have you ever played an instrument?
I started out on the violin, which was probably a mistake for me because I wasn't a natural, and I played in an orchestra in college, but I was never, it wasn't my karma to play the violin. And then my mother actually played or dabbled with the flute. And so I played around with the flute in the 60s, when I was like, half in some alternate universe most of the time, and saxophones and stuff like that. But I were never trained in any way, and regret that, in a certain way, that I can't play the piano, for instance.
Well,
But
there's still
well, yeah, I'm not giving up. I mean, I sort of feel like, who knows what's possible, but actually I do a lot of yoga. And so I don't mean it to be a trick or answer to your question, but I play the instrument of the body. And I tell you, yoga is just, I mean, it's incredible, and yoga has to be mindful or there's no point doing it. So it's another form of mindfulness meditation. I think I read someplace that you do yoga too. Is that right? And it's an art form. It's an art form. It's a little bit like dance maybe, but it's like, it's so deep. And it's a meditation. So I don't see any separation between yoga, if it's done mindfully, and mindfulness meditation.
hear you say that. I went to a yoga retreat center. I guess it was maybe 20 years ago. I'd been doing yoga on my own since I was about 14. And I was in my early 20s. And I went, and the leader or the owner of the place said, Valerie, do you do yoga? And I was like, yes, I do. And he said, do you breathe when you're doing yoga? And I never really brought my attention to every single breath in the
Wow.
pose, out of the pose, through the pose. Like I will never forget it. It just
Wow.
you at 21 with the three pillars, me with breath, with yoga, I was like, whoa, that just totally changed my whole practice.
Well, you see, that's how we are all each other's teachers, because yeah, you would think maybe you knew that, but people are always helping us see what's right under our noses, but we're not seeing. And that's why we need each other, really, if you're open to it. Um, and, that's beautiful. It's really wonderful to hear. Really
Yeah,
wonderful.
it's simple. It seems simple, but it is like the breath and entering that realm of awareness with the breath as you do the poses, not just doing the poses.
Oh, totally. I mean, we could have a whole other conversation just on the breath because, the breath is what kind of links the body and mind, as they say in the yogic tradition. But when you are being mindful of breathing, you're mindful of the entire universe of your body, which is, I won't go into it, but like a miracle on every conceivable level, including the fact that all of your atoms in your body, of which there are such a big number that we don't even have a name for that big a number, all of the atoms except hydrogen, which came out of the Big Bang, all the hydrogen and all the hydrocarbons, all those, they had an origin. The origin's the Big Bang. That's what all the cosmologists and physicists say. And then all the other atoms came out of exploding stars. All the carbon and phosphorus and iron and everything else came out of exploding stars. And, it's like the miracle of life and the miracle of the body is so mind-blowing. And every time you breathe in, you're breathing in oxygen. And that oxygen all comes from the green stuff out there called plants. And it took billions of years to create an oxygen enough rich atmosphere for our kind of life. Billions of years of the plants doing their thing, capturing the sunlight. And they use chlorophyll to do it, which has a magnesium atom at its center. And then when we breathe out, we're breathing out carbon dioxide. The plants are breathing out the carbon dioxide and they're breathing in the carbon dioxide and using that as food, and breathing out the oxygen. We're breathing in the oxygen, breathing out the carbon dioxide. And the oxygen links to hemoglobin, of course, red blood cells, right? And the heme in the hemoglobin is the same ring as in the chlorophyll molecule, basically, but with an iron atom at the center. So it's like, you couldn't make this stuff up. The universe is really clever. And given 13.8 billion years, that's a lot of moments, a lot of time, and everything going on with black holes at the moment and everything. It's like in the James Webb Space Telescope. If you haven't looked at their website and looked at pictures, it's like, that's what we come out of. And that's all our past. And because of that past, we can be in the present now. And we've been given the green stuff, the red stuff, the blue stuff. I mean, and we could really screw it up if we're smarter than we think if we're not smarter than we think we are.
Yeah, you're right. Or we could choose to use those beautiful colors from those photographs that have been taken to create a wonderful world. I think we can do
I think that's what we're doing, right? That's why we're having conversations like this one.
Absolutely.
And really affirming that on every level, this is the real deal. It's not some new age weirdo, thing that, is just kind of pacification for people who are miserable. No, this is living life as if it really, 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 as many reallys as you want really mattered. And so better live in the moment because that's all you got.
I always think when you're talking about this will be the last thing I ask you because I know you have a day planned.
No, I made a lot of time for this. But I'm happy to stop anytime you want to. It's just that I didn't put a limit on this because, how many days am I going to be talking to Valerie June? And I told Rick Rubin that this morning. I wrote to him and I said, I'm going to be meeting with Valerie June this afternoon. Do you know her? but I don't think he's responded to me yet.
He has a 3.5 hour podcast, Rick Rubin, on his new podcast.
With you. Oh, how
No,
wonderful.
with Rick Rubin has a podcast, and it's 3 hours plus. So
Oh yeah, is that the Tetragrammaton or something?
yeah.
Yeah, I just did a recording with him about a month ago for that,
Oh, okay.
but I don't think it's up yet. But he's something.
I gotta check that out. You were speaking about the new age, or I don't know what word to use, like the softness of this, the, the importance, but also like how people can see that it's whimsical, or they say that it's whimsical or not as firm as it is, or just hippy dippy or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
are there any things that you think can be done for really, really helping people to see how important it is? It's just as important as any headline about like war and the things that are happening. Like it's just as important as gun violence and so many people that are dying every day in Memphis, which is down the street from me. It's just as important. Like, how do we take something that the language seems so soft, cloudy, and fluffy and let people like really make it come home to people how important it is? Is there any other way that it could be said, or is there any other thing
That's
that
a very profound question, and I really all I'll say is that that question's really, really important to me. And one way, which was like what I'm best known for, is bringing it into medicine. So bringing mindfulness into the mainstream of medicine. Okay. And that's totally changed medicine and, forever. And at the time that I did it, I mean, the idea of bringing meditation into medicine was like, yeah, you out of your mind? You know, uh, uh, we've worked hard to keep, ourselves scientifically respectable. Now you're going to bring in all these weirdos and chanting and, robes and stuff like that. Now the Harvard School of Public Health has a Thich Nhat Hanh Center for Mindfulness, and they had 40 monastics, nuns and monks at the inauguration last April, all in robes. And Harvard managed to swallow deep, and because I guess they got a lot of money associated with the gift of it. But, the world is changing. And so I don't know what else to say except that tell you what, ask me that question again. Just roll it by me once again so that I can hear it orthogonally to what I just heard.
there's a softness or a like whimsical kind of hippy dippy woo woo way of like that people see people who are practicing active mindfulness or positive activism in the world. But to me, it's just as powerful and important as hearing about it's happening in
Okay.
wars and problems that we face.
Right. Okay. Two things come to mind. One is if you go to my website, which is Jon Kabat-Zinn, my name with the hyphen.com, and click on mindfulness in action, I tried to, on that webpage, highlight what I knew about all the things that were going on in the world at that particular time, which was, I built the website a couple of years ago, that were actually examples of what people could do everywhere around mindfulness to bring it out beyond just the hippy dippy thing you do by yourself, to improve your own health or whatever. So that's one. And that could be the beginning of like a whole never ending series of connections, because I don't know everything that's going on at all. But the other thing, and mindfulness is spreading through the world like wildfire. I'm not always sure that people even know what it means when they get hyped about mindfulness, and whether they're so busy in the hype that they don't actually have time to practice, or know what it is. So there's always that thing, and danger when something gets popular, that it will get corrupted or degraded or trivialized. So that's a very important thing to watch out for all of us. And then the other thing is that there's now a science of mindfulness that's at least, I started this MBSR program at the hospital 44 years ago. And there's like at 44 years of history now in the medical literature, in the scientific literature, of the effects of mindfulness on the brain, on the immune system, on virtually, on health and well-being. And that curve of the number of papers per year in the scientific literature is going exponential. I actually have a curve here, so I'll show it to you.
What?
That's the
Wow.
number of papers per year. And this is like when I started this stress reduction clinic. And so long lag time, only a few papers that I was writing and my colleagues. And then there's over 1,000 papers a year now. Even during the pandemic, it didn't go down. And so in 1979, the idea of bringing meditation or mindfulness into medicine was akin to the Visigoths are at the gates of the citadel of Western civilization about to tear it down. And that's not what happened. Medicine adopted meditation because it empowers their patients. There's no amount of medicine can replace taking care of yourself or being a partner with your physicians and healthcare team in optimizing your well-being. And of course, that's what we've been talking about for the whole hour, is optimizing your well-being. You don't have to get sick in order to start optimizing your well-being. It'd be much better if you started optimizing your well-being right away, and then you probably wouldn't get sick as much or ever.
I love that. And
So
thank you so much for your years of study and the proof that we have. And I'm definitely going to lean on that when I am in talks or I'm speaking about the power of music and mindfulness, anything like that. I'm going to lean on your work and the years that you and your team have put to all of this proof that it does work to
well,
embody.
I feel like we're allies. We're brothers and sisters in a certain way, allies in putting our shoulders to the wheel of healing and transforming the world, and with a lot of love, with love in the form of song, in the form of music, and yeah, and
I love it. Well, thank you so much for making time for me today. And hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person and have tea.
I would love that. I'm a native New Yorker, as you heard, so I don't know if you're there a lot, but I hope we get to have tea at some point, and I hope you get to meet my wife, who's like really incredible being. Um, and Jack, really nice to meet you all over there in La Bella Italia. And yeah, I can't say, I'm just tickled pink and honored to have had this opportunity. And if anything useful comes of it, I'll just be, sort of overjoyed. But don't feel any, sort of pressure from me that something should come of it. If you decide in the end that, it was a nice something, but it won't lead anywhere, it doesn't matter. From my point of view, it's
Already
like,
hear a song.
She's such a
well,
prolific songwriter. I think she's probably already finished it by the time.
and I tell you, I mean, I love the energy of the songs that I've heard. I mean, I actually love them. And I have to say, I mean, the one I've listened to the most is Only a Fool. And there's something about the way you sing that song, and the song it's just phenomenal. And I'm sure it speaks to a lot of people who actually feel that they're foolish in a certain way and turns that around.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
I use love in the song. Really, it's for anyone who has like this, even what we're talking about. We have like this hope and this dream of what will happen for humanity. And you can be called a fool for that. It's what my last question was. And the song has the emotion of what that is, that feeling. Okay, it's fine if you want to call it a feel, but this is what it feels like.
Yeah. And you're okay in that, in your body and
Yeah.
in your song and in your life. And, you know, again, that's infectious, just as we were saying, you know, it's infectious. It does its work. So thank you. It's just been an absolute, I'm gobsmacked. I
I,
don't ever use that word, but, you know, I just, well, when whoever it was wrote to me and asked me, well, would I do that? You know, and I said, I had no idea who you were. So I went to the internet, which is what people do, and I found that song. And I think what I said in the email was, when I was, would you be willing to do this? My response was, in a heartbeat, because of
well,
that.
well, thank you. I can't wait to tell Carla Thomas she said that. She sings of me on that one.
That's wonderful. Yeah, do. Okay, so stay in touch. And again, will one of you send me both of your best mailing addresses, and I can put books in the mail for you if you like. If not, no worries. But I'd just be delighted to share them with you if you're interested.
I would love to. I'll send it through.
Okay. Be
Absolutely.
well. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, and looking forward to the next time our paths cross.
Yeah. I'll stay on with Valerie for a moment to debrief. and
Okay, so I'll
decompress.
just be leaving. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, John. Wow.
Wow. Thank you for making that happen.
I was blissed out. I was like, I felt like when you were cleaning or something like that, or in a deep because his voice is so blissful now. It's really,
It really is. I did the
yeah.
body scan this morning. It's a 52-minute meditation that he leads on. And I was just lying there. This is how I started the day because I was like, I want to go ahead and begin working with John before I speak with him today. And it was amazing. So I highly recommend taking time. to do
Yeah.
that. It's on the masterclass he has. There's a lot of different ones out there, though.
But you did a wonderful job with the interview. You really you stood back. You've obviously been a good student, a good mindfulness student. You just let him flow. You didn't interrupt. You're a great interviewer. Yeah.
Well, I felt like the best way we're going to get um, the songs to appear is just by listening. And he has so many powerful stories. Like
Oh yeah.
the story of me, that alone is a really interesting theme to think about when we're thinking about writing. And then there were some more things that he said. And then just like the song of nothing, like I like to be in silence. I'm very much a hermit, but like the way he was describing it and how that's his sound, I
Yeah.
love it as a song too. So
I think we might end up having to give him a writing credit to him because
hey, let's share. I don't care. As long as we create and we make something that moves people, let's do that.
yeah,
And
we've got.
want to come to Italy.
You should come. Yeah, we'll do the song over here.
I would love to. I went twice last year, but it was like Sartiano, and I have some friends there, and Montepulciano, and different places in that area. So I haven't been to the Amalfi Coast, so I need to come
Oh,
visit.
yeah, you must too. Yeah. And do you have some ideas for the song already? If you mentioned
Just the space for it. I feel like I have the space for it right now, but the ideas, they're just coming as we go along, and we'll see what comes today.
I
I
wrote
have
down
the water and things that make the songs appear.
I wrote down 3 potential titles to just give you you can, if you chose, from what he said. The one is The Only Moment You'll Ever Have. I thought that was a very nice. Another one was Stuck in the Story of Me, and Something You Said, or The Rest Between Two Breaths. That was a nice thought as well.
Wow. the one that we have together is the story of me. So I kind of feel like that's a good starting point.
There you go.
I think something's going to come because who doesn't, first of all, love the story of me? Like
Oh, oh,
when you tell yourself the story of you, don't you just love it? So
all day. It's Radio Jack is pumping away.
DJ, BJ.
Yeah.
So I think we could kind of start in that area. Do you have music at all that you already have some music that you don't have lyrics for, or
No, but there's just so much music swimming around. That's not a problem. We can. I got 4 chords that I always use. I can bring up there.
I
I'll
love
dust off my 4 chords and
that sounds good.
yeah.
Okay, well, here it comes. I like the story of me, and I like us playing in that area, and it being something where the story of me connects all of us to each other, and how it's bigger. How I actually wrote a song called "Bigger Than Me" that
Oh, there you go.
describes it. I co-wrote it with a friend, and so I think this is like in the same spirit. I think it would be like kind of a sister. Sometimes I get sister songs. They come
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
they're born together. So this will be years after I wrote that song with him. So they wouldn't necessarily be sister songs, but the theme is similar.
Wow, you collaborated with so many amazing artists. Really feel honored to, because we have the band here in Italy. We have a producer and some great musicians. So, I mean, the song could just be you on the banjo, as I saw that video that came out today was beautiful. So if you just want to go simple, but if you want a bigger production, we have musicians here. We can put them to work.
Okay. Well, I'll keep you posted. I might
Okay.
make you a holiday.
Yeah.
All right, Jet. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Valerie. Chat later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
When you're feeling upside down, if you're longing for higher ground, might be with you all along. Just a breath to bring you home. Butterflies and bumblebees, feel the wind move through the trees. Settle with the flow of life, finding treasures deep inside. What the world needs now is a rest between breaths. All the world needs now is a rest between breaths. Some might say that we are lost, overwhelmed with such exhaust. Let each breath restore your soul as you share that inner glow. Butterflies and bumblebees, feel the wind move through the trees. Settle with the flow of life, finding treasures deep inside. What the world needs now is a rest between breaths. All the world needs now is a rest between breaths. is a